Amano is a boring loser who spends all his time gaming, but one day, the most popular girl in the entire school suddenly approaches him to join her gaming club and begins to develop feelings for him. Some people are, as they say, out of our reach. They might be your favorite idol or an athlete, and for some people, they're 2D characters. Normal people can only watch them from afar, which is why they're out of reach. So when the cutest girl in school spoke to him out of the blue, Amano Kita lost communication with his brain. The girl introduces herself as Tendu Karen, and Amano remarks that she stands at the top of the school hierarchy, and her specs make her almost too perfect to be real, so even though she's not a celebrity or anything, she's basically treated like a deity. Amano hurriedly greets her and remarks that he's acting like a total creep, so she says it's nice to meet him and helps him pick his games up. She asks if he likes games and picks the game he dropped before embarrassingly realizing it's a dating simulator and looking away. Amano remarks that he wants to erase his very existence and explains that the game had some unique content, so he was a bit interested and couldn't help but want to read the back cover. She says they're pretty neat, so he cheerily agrees and starts rambling, but he hurriedly catches himself. Tendu slowly asks if he wants to join her in the game club, if that's alright, surprising him. Meanwhile, a girl asks Tasuku to help her get a stuffed toy since he's really good at games. He asks for money to put in the crane game, but annoyingly realizes she wants him to use his own money like a weird gold digger. He manages to get it, so she happily says it's really fluffy and being so praises him for good at games, so he tells her to not get too excited, but remarks that he's badass as always. Plus he has a girlfriend who's a bit of an airhead, but you could also say she's cute as hell. As they're walking home, Tasuku asks his girlfriend why she's so happy, so she says it's because he got this for her and says she's going to cherish it for life. Tasuku notices Amano from his class and wonders what the hell he's doing here, inwardly saying a guy like him will never get a cute girlfriend like he does. Sitting on the bench, Tenda tells Amano that she ended up creating a game club herself, but she hasn't really recruited any members yet. Amano says he's actually a little surprised she likes gaming. Sue says she hasn't told her friends about it and managed to succeed in reviving the game club. Amano asks what exactly it is, so she says they don't just mess around and play games, they play seriously as club members, so she's been looking for new members who are undeniably true gamers, which is when she found him. She asks if he'll be willing to visit the game club sometimes, but before Amano can answer, she says she has to return home and tells him to think about it. At home, Amano happily thinks about the game club and gets a message, so he cautiously checks it and sees that it's from Mono. At school, Tendu sees that Amano plays social network games too, but he suddenly notices their classmates watching and says they should go to the club room already. He meets a boy named Misumi Ecchi, and Tendu reveals that she'd invited another member already. Amano tearfully remarks that he wants to smack himself for thinking he was the chosen one before Misumi says he doesn't have many friends, so it'd make him happy if they could be friends. Amano happily says he'd love to, and they cheerily head to the game club. Amano is surprised to see that there really are games everywhere in the club, and they meet another boy, their Case Kakuto, as well as a girl who's good at fighting games, Oso Nina. Tendu tells that Case is actually one of the top FPS players in the world, even though he may not look like it, and Tendu adds that they bought everything here using the prize money from gaming competitions. She suggests that it's not fun just watching, so they should play too. However, as they start playing, Amano realizes they're all hardcore gamers and wearily sighs 2 hours later. Tendu annoyingly tells Case to go easy on them or else he'll scare away their new members. Case asks Misumi if this really his first time playing a FPS since he's never had a newbie kill him 3 times before. Misumi says he probably just got lucky, but Amano praises him too, and Case tells him he is but promise Amano what he was thinking jumping up and down in the car. Tendu hurriedly assures Amano it's fine since Case is just really serious when it comes to FPS games, and they decide to take a break. Later, Tendu asks Amano and Misumi how they got into gaming and tells them about Case and Nina's dark backstories. Amano mutters that he just kinda likes gaming, so she hurriedly tells him it's fine since that's a valid reason too, and asks Misumi what his reason was, so he says he doesn't have a very good reason either, and mutters that some people are just out of their reach. Tendu tells them to not let their seniors intimidate them since they're just game addicts and they don't have to be good at gaming either, since their mission is to just make themselves better gamers. Misumi says he had a lot of fun today and agrees to join. Case tells Amano he'll teach him the basics of FPS games, and Nina gives him her fighting stick, so Amano happily realizes he's made his first friends since he started high school. They're a bit hard to talk to, but they're nice, and he has an ideal school life, surrounded by his beloved games. However, he's suddenly to join the club since this club doesn't play any of the games he likes. Confusing them, bro got handed a jackpot and threw it away because the vibes weren't good. The next morning, Amano frustratingly questions why he turned the invitation down and receives an invite from Mono, but Tendu suddenly appears in front of him and asks if he's still playing that. She says she still wants him in their club because she's a bit interested in him, so Amano slowly raises his hand to shake hers, but instead presses a button on the game. He hurriedly apologizes and mutters that he can't join the club, so she asks if he's worried that he won't be good enough and says Case takes good care of people, but he says that's not it. He wants to play games for the fun of it and doesn't like playing them competitively, so he's sorry, but he wants to keep gaming the way he likes. Tendu slowly questions why she feels like she was just rejected, but Amano thanks her for inviting him.
Oh, thanks, man.
So she tearfully says he sucks at games and it's not like she enjoyed spending time with him. Amano tells her to keep up good work with the club and says he's rooting for her, so she sadly walks away but slips on a banana peel and falls down before leaving. As Tasuku watches the conversation between Amano and Tendu, he wonders what the hell this is. The other students wonder if they should ask Amano what happened, but Tasuku says they don't have a chance of understanding him. A girl says it's a bit weird since Amano seems stuck up in general. A guy mutters that he should really learn his place, and Tasuku admits that his life seems pathetic. His girlfriend brings him lunch and says everyone was talking about Amano being rejected. Later, Tasuku goes to the Crane Game arcade instead of hanging out with his friend and keeps having annoying visions of his past self. He suddenly notices Amano there, and Amano tells him to definitely play the game he won on the Crane Game since it's a masterpiece. Amano realizes he got a bit too carried away and walks away. Tasuku sees him wandering around in the arcade and wonders what he's doing. He inwardly questions if such a gaming fanatic doesn't know his way around in an arcade and tells Amano to come with him since they'll play together, so Amano cheerily agrees. Tasuku can't believe this is the kid who rejected Tendu and asks what his relationship with her, so Amano tells him about the game club. Tasuku doesn't get how the games in the game club were different from the ones Amano wanted to play, so Amano mutters that it's hard to explain, and they sit down to play. As they start playing, Tasuku remarks that Amano is better than Aguri since she just mashed the controls, but players like him are easier to get a raid on. Amano is surprised by how good Tasuku is and says he'll win this time, so Tasuku wonders how he's so much fun playing a simple fighting game. When he wins again, he remarks that Amano is way too bad at this since even elementary school kids are better than him. Tasuku asks what they should play next, and they spend the rest of the day having fun. As they drink a soda, Tasuku asks Amano if he's planning on playing all the games he couldn't play alone, so Amano embarrassingly says that's not it and asks what they should do next. They see Tasuku's friends approaching, so Amano hurriedly says he'll see him later and leaves. Aguri annoyingly tells Tasuku she's been looking for him this whole time, so he says he didn't notice and that he has to be somewhere before hurriedly leaving. As he's running, he frustratingly wonders what he's doing and finally manages to find Amano walking on a bridge. He warily asks Amano why he ran away, so Amano believes he wouldn't want him around since he has a life after all. Tasuku angrily grabs his collar and asks who the hell he thinks he is. He tells him to not judge people like that and asks if he thinks his time is way better spent gaming. He asks why he's even getting so serious over video games and mutters that Tenda's game club is stupid too. However, Amano tells him to take it back like a mafia boss threatening to kill someone. He admits he has no interests other than gaming and says he's known that for forever, and even admits games are stupid for the sake of argument, but that doesn't give him the right to insult someone he barely knows for being enraged at something, even if it's as stupid as gaming. He says Tendu is a really good person. She's kind, she takes action, and she invited him of all people into her club twice, so he wants Tasuku to take back his insulting remarks about her in the club. Tasuku hurriedly tells Amano to just calm down, so Amano realizes he was dangling him over the road and hurriedly lets go before apologizing. Tasuku says he feels bad and apologizes, but he admits he never thought the man who turned down the invite from Tendu would defend the game club so passionately. He smilingly decides to head back to the arcade, and Amano cheerily says he'll go home for today since there's a game he wants to play. Tasuku remarks that his past self has got nothing on him and runs into Tendu, who's admiringly staring at Amano as he walks away. Tasuku remarks that he's witnessed something insane and realizes the school idol is in love with Amano because the nerdy protagonist is always the luckiest man in the world. He greets Tendu and wishes her well, so she hurriedly asks what he means. He clarifies that he just thinks she and Amano suit each other well and walks off, remarking that this will be a good way to tease Amano. He sees Aguri waiting for him and she asks him to get him another toy, so he agrees. remarking that they've been dating for the past half year, but all they've really done hang out after school, so he wonders why he's even dating her and believes Aguri probably just liked his face. She says she fell for him back in middle school when he got her a plushie, and says she could tell he was having a lot of fun when he played here every now and then. Stunned, Tasuku remembers this was back in his dark days when he sometimes came here to distract himself and just happened to give the plushies to a girl. Aguri explains that she heard Tasuku really liked girly girls, so she worked really hard to change. Blushing, Tasuku utters that he's done for today, so she says they should walk home together, but he hurriedly runs away and says her home is nearby. As he's running, he nervously wonders why he's feeling for Aguri right now and questions if she's had her eyes on him since middle school, when he was such a loser. He asks himself why she looks so cute all of a sudden and screams in frustration. The next day in class, he tells Amano that the game he recommended really was fun and asks Amano to let him know if he ever finds another cool game. Amano cheerily agrees, and as Tasuku heads back to his seat, his friends ask if he's always been this close to Amano. He cheerily says he's been having a blast with video games lately. Amano meets Tasuku in the morning, who annoyingly says that free game by the Nobu's person was boring as hell. Tasuku says it was a horror exploration game and had him excited by the mysteries and foreshadowing, and even though it became a fishing game halfway in, he managed to power through it because Amano had recommended it, but the ending was just some dude who caught a black bass. Amano cheerily says Nobu's games are all great, but Tasuku says his tastes are way too sophisticated and says the game's a total flop. In class, Tasuku asks Amano if he doesn't see Tendo often after what happened, so Amano says he's actually a little bummed by how little contact they have. Amano asks if he can play his game for a bit, so Tasuku cheerily agrees. He asks why his nickname is Tsuchi, so Amano says he likes making nicknames that aren't like his own when he's online. He reveals that he's been friends with Mono ever since he started playing the game and feels strangely close to this person. Tasuku sees that it looks like he's going to need some rehab before they can enjoy his rom-com with Tendo. He tells Amano he's not going to get anywhere at this rate, but Amano suddenly gets bummed, so he says he didn't want to make him sad. Amano is surprised to see Tasuku cares about him so much, and Tasuku suggests that they should start talking to some girls who like the same kind of games he does. After school, Tasuku shows Amano a girl named Hoshinomori Chiaki, who's supposed to be a gaming otaku just like Amano, and tells him to go hit on her. Aguri annoyingly asks Tasuku if he wasn't going to hang out with her today, so he leaves and tells Amano to make sure to talk to Chiaki. Misumi asks Amano if he's here to talk with Tendo, but he says that's not the case, and he's here to see another girl. He approaches Chiaki and sees that she's completely focused, but Tendo angrily asks what brings him to Class A. He mutters he's here to see a girl, so she thinks he's probably here for some class representative stuff. Amano remembers what Tasuku said and reveals that he worked up the courage to come to Class A so he could become friends with this lady. Tendo collapses and angrily calls him a sleazeball before running away. Amano asks Hoshinomori if the game she's playing is Aegis Vive that just came out last week, surprising her. Later, they both sit down on a bench and he introduces himself before she asks if he's from the game club. She apologizes and says,
I'm sorry.
She still has no interest in joining a game club, but he says he's not from the club, and they realize their reasons for not joining the club are the same, so they happily shake hands and get comfortable with each other. Later at home, Hoshinomori asks Amano what kind of games he likes, and it turns out both of them were more alike than Tasuku expected. The more they talk to each other, the more they realize that their tastes and sensibilities were the same, especially when it comes to games. The games they've played in the past, their ideals, their gaming styles. They were practically mirror images of each other. As they're happily talking about the Aegis series in school, they suddenly realize there's one difference between them. Amano tells Tasuku that they had a difference in philosophies and believes Tasuku wouldn't have let that slide either. He reveals that Hoshinomori said games don't need Mu characters. He says he doesn't care if she's a girl, he can never concede when it comes to video games. Tasuku says he just made a gaming buddy, so they should talk it over calmly later. Later, Tasuku warily sits down in front of Amano and Hoshinomori as they're arguing. He asks why they can't just get along and says fighting over games is one thing, but attacking each other isn't good. They start excitedly talking about Aegis V again and their favorite map in it, but the Mo topic comes up again and they start butting heads. Tasuku asks why they can't just stop, so Amano says he doesn't get it. They're lonely gamers with nothing but their inflated egos, so they can't compromise when it comes to games. Tasuku mutters that they should call it a day here and cheerily tells Hoshinomori he had fun listening to her talking about games, so who cares about her having seaweed hair? He actually likes that about her. Amano sees that Aguri seems to be getting the wrong idea and admits this does make it look like Tazuku is making a move on another woman, so he could end up with hell to pay for that comment. Later, as Tazuku and Aguri are walking, he notices that she seems quiet today. She asks what he was doing in that classroom earlier, so he reveals that he was mediating a fight between Amano and Hoshinomori. In that case, Aguri asks what the deal is with him hanging around with Amano so much, so he hurriedly says they just talk about video games. The next day at school, Amano asks Tazuku if Aguri said anything to him, so he says she was normal and wonders why Amano is worried about her when they don't even know each other. A cute girl approaches them, so Tazuku initially doesn't recognize her, but he suddenly realizes she's Hoshinomori who cut her hair on his suggestion. He remarks that he never expected so much improvement in her appearance and tells her she had what it takes to be cute after all.
They're so cute.
Amano suddenly notices Aguri depressingly walking away and rushes after her. He runs into Tendu, who apologizes for the misunderstanding the other day, but Amano asks if she happened to pass by a girl. She says she saw someone heading to the front entrance, so he thanks her for the help. Before he runs away, she asks why he's chasing after her, so he says it's because of some relationship drama. He confronts Aguri and nervously asks if she would like to have tea with him. Later at the cafe, Amano remarks that he can't shake off the feeling that he's been hitting on everyone lately and remarks that he didn't plan ahead at all. He says he doesn't think what she thinks it is between Tazuku and Hoshinomori, and he was just saying she's cute like a figure of speech. He assures her that Tazuku really loves her, and he's too good for Hoshinomori, so he's totally rooting for her. Aguri cheerily says she's going to get something else to drink, and Amano remarks that he managed to pull it off in season events, so he invites Mono and hopes nothing bad happens from now on. However, when Aguri returns with her drink, she drops it in shock, and Amano sees Tazuku touching Hoshinomori's shoulder to take a look at her phone. As soon as Tendu wakes up, she leaves the house for a jog. The morning is a time of enrichment for her, and so she begins her day pleasantly. After her exercise, she moves on to her early morning studies, has breakfast, and quickly prepares to leave for school. What people don't know is that she doesn't fuss over her appearance too much. The first thing he does upon arriving at school is socializing with her friends. Her principle is to commit fully to what can only be done then and there. During break, she volunteers to help point not to scorp her teacher, but because she values the special experience that she gains from it. After that comes the most depressing part for her. She believes it is her duty to confront the person's confession head on and decline with honesty. After school, she heads to the game club where she is secretly a member. There, members gather to hone their skills in gaming. She is absolutely in love with the tense atmosphere that comes about only when everyone takes their work seriously. When she gets home, she reviews her studies, plays some games to relax as well as to gather information, and sleeps early to prepare for the next day. The next morning, Tenda blushingly gets up and questions why she's having a dream about Amano. She hurriedly goes back to sleep and realizes she hasn't done her homework yet. She hurriedly gets dressed as quickly as she can and rushes to school. She's taking out confession envelopes from her locker and suddenly notices Amano nearby, so she hurriedly hides behind her friend. As she's volunteering to the teacher during break, she goes in the opposite direction to look for Amano in his class, but runs into him in the hallway, so she hurriedly runs away. She accidentally turns down someone really rudely and dozes off in the club, so Nina says she seems out of it lately. She cheerily says her mind tends to wander to completely unrelated things, and she only mentions stuff about Amano, so Case tells her she's been losing her edge. She remarks that she has to stop being distracted and focus on gaming. As she goes to sleep, she hopes Amano comes to the game club tomorrow. She keeps thinking about Amano and isn't able to fall asleep. She remarks that she really is getting worse at gaming and admits it's obvious why she's doing so poorly. Ever since that day, when Amano said having fun is the most important thing in gaming, there's been hesitation in her stoic style of gaming. She seriously hopes he takes responsibility for this and runs into him. Amano reveals that he's been gaming all day and his mum yelled at him, so here he is, outside. Tenda mutters that that's a bitter reason to leave the house and suggests that he could come walk with her. However, Amano hurriedly says he can't possibly be with her on a weekend. Tenda realizes he's going to reject her again, but remarks that she won't let it happen this time. She gets close and asks Amano if he hates her. Amano says that's not it. He just wouldn't want to bother her with more rumors going around. He decides to leave now, but she stops him and says she was proposing that they got for a walk, so he should just come with her. She assures him that this isn't a date, so Amano asks why they're at a game shop. He buys some games, and as they're walking, she reveals that she goes to the arcade as well. Amano says he thought he didn't like it, but he had a chance to go with someone recently and realized arcade games are pretty fun too. They reach the arcade and Tendu annoyingly wonders if he's talking about Hoshinomori. She says the idea that he'd go to the arcade with a girl made her think he's surprisingly shameless and says she's disappointed like a weird school teacher. He hurriedly says she was the one who invited him, and they head in. So Tendu remarks that she feels like she might find a way to get out of this slump if she can play against him here. She decides to challenge him on a coin game so that they can have a fair, serious battle, so Amano mutters that she's secretly knocking his skills. She declares that she's going to defeat him and take back what's lost, so Amano hurriedly asks if they're not just playing a game. She tells him girls won't like him if he keeps fretting over little things. She says they'll meet here in 30 minutes and announces that she's going to beat him and get over her slump. She realizes Amano is a total newbie at these games, but says she won't let her guard down and is going to put an end to her weakness. 30 minutes later, Amano has no coins while Tendu has filled up her entire cup, but she angrily wonders why she still feels so dissatisfied even though she won. She asks Tendu if he can borrow a coin from her and uses it to bet on a horse in one of the games for their challenge. Later, Tendu asks Amano if he declined to join the game club because he didn't like the way they pay to win, so Amano admits that's true, but Tendu points out that he looked sad just now after he lost. He says if he didn't care about winning, there wouldn't be any fun in playing video games. He happily sees that he won an extra drink from the vending machine and gives it to her. She asks why he wouldn't join the game club if that's the case, so he says it's because he simply doesn't have the tenacity it takes to win. Tendu mutters that she gets really worked up over winning and losing in video games and asks if she and the game club are silly, but Amano says that doesn't sound like her and declares that to enjoy the victories and fret the losses is the biggest thrill in gaming. That's why, even though he admires the game club members for practicing really hard in order to win, he'd never think it's silly. Tendu says he keeps disappointing her and smilingly remarks that she meant it in a good way. She decides to head home now and cheerily says she's dying to game. As Tasuku is walking with Hoshinomori, he calls Aguri and wonders where she went off to with Amano. Hoshinomori reveals that she's actually working on a game, so he asks if she doesn't know someone who'd know more about game stuff. She annoyingly says she doesn't really care about Amano, and suddenly receives a message. Tasuku sees that she's playing a game on her phone and says she and Amano are really like-minded. He suddenly notices that her username is Mono and shockingly stops her before staring closer at her screen, realizing she's the person Amano plays with. He apologizes for grabbing her shoulder and asks if she's known Suchi for a while, so she smilingly says he's been her friend ever since she started playing this game, and she feels strangely close to him. Tasuku slowly grabs her shoulders and frustratingly questions how much more star-crossed they could get. He hurriedly shakes her and asks what she thinks of Amano, so she says she hates him more than idols that end up in your favorite drama only because they demanded it. They get a drink and sit down, so Suku asks if she doesn't like Amano in a Sunder way, and she confirms that she doesn't. Tasuku asks Hoshinomori why her name is Mono, so she says she got it from her mom's maiden name and feels like being someone else when she's online. Tasuku frustratingly asks how much more star-crossed they could get and wonders how these two haven't started dating yet. He wishes there was some convenient way to take care of the situation and suddenly stands up, trembling at the thought of how perfect this solution was. At school, he tells Amano and Hoshinomori that they're going to hold a gamer meetup, pointing out that they need to make a gathering spot since they don't like the game club. They clap in approval but are against the idea of each other being included. Tasuku sighs and says they will be engaging in meet-up activities together and they'll be permitted to debate about video games as well, so they agree. They ask if they don't have anyone else they can get to join Sutsu. Tasuku says there's one more who hasn't said she's in yet. Tendu arrives and thanks them for including her in the meetup, but she suddenly notices Hoshinomori and asks her and Amano if they choose this meetup over the games club because of each other. They confirm that they did, but Tasuku realizes she'll misunderstand and Tendu mutters that she doesn't think she's needed for this meetup. Tasuku realizes his master plan to put Amano in a room with two girls while at the same time keeping an eye on his behavior with Aguri is collapsing. He hurriedly asks Tendu to have a seat and says she can decide whether or not she wants to join later. He tells Hoshinomori to continue talking about her game, so she says her games are more popular when she plays it safe and minds people's feedback, but then it's not fun. Amano says he doesn't care either way since what matters in the end is whether the product is good or not. She asks if he doesn't expect anything from developers, so he confirms this and tells her to just make what she wants. Whether or not she wants her game to be popular, it's her work either way. She could do whatever she wants and end up making a masterpiece, or she could glue together clutches and end up with something ridiculously fun. He reveals that there's a freeware game developer he loves, and what he likes about their work is the humanity that seeps out of the small details, so whether the developer is aiming for a hit or not, it's going to be the same. Tasuku hurriedly tells Tendu she's the reason Amano and Hoshinomori started hanging out. He wanted to learn to be able to talk out with her, so he tried to start with a fellow gamer. Aguri appears in the doorstep and calls Amano over, so he gets up and says he has to go since he has plans with her. Hoshinomori says she never thought Amano would have such a cute girlfriend and reveals that he was chasing after her the other day too, so they sure are close. As she leaves, Tasuku and Tendu sit there stunned. She hurriedly runs away, saying she's going to decline the invitation, and Tasuku declares that he wants to quit too. Tasuku apologizes to Aguri, so he tearfully reminds him that he told her there's nothing going on between Hoshinomori and Tasuku. She says he's been wrong about everything so far and asks if he's forgotten what he told her after that. The waitress asks them to be a little quieter,
Shut up.
so they apologize, and Amano remarks that he never knew Tasuku was such a player. Amano asks if she still found Tasuku and suggests that it would be better if she found someone she had more in common with. She reminds him that you don't do love. You fall in love even if it hurts, even if they're way out of your league. Amano grabs her hand and says he's going to do everything he can to get her and Tasuku back together, so she happily thanks him and says she's going to do her best too. They suddenly notice Hoshinomori outside the window, and Amano quickly goes outside. He explains something to her, but she runs away. When he returns, he tells Aguri he told her she's the most thoughtful girlfriend in the world and that there's no other girl as beautiful as her. He made sure Hoshinomori absolutely knows about Aguri. Bro really is the goat at causing misunderstandings. She happily says he did a good job and admits he's a man, so he says it kind of bothered him that Hoshinomori said, "Good for him," like she was annoyed by it. In that case, Aguri says she'll do what she can for him so that he can talk to Tendu properly, even if that means declining to hang out with Tasuku sometimes, so he happily agrees. In the arcade, Tasuku assures himself it's fine since there's no way anything is going on between Aguri and Amano. However, he realizes the two are a bit similar in a weird way, so they might actually hit it off. He tells himself Aguri is way too ditzy for Amano, but suddenly realizes Aguri passed him back when he was an enthusiastic gamer, when he was dull and kinda like Amano. Amano dreams of confessing his love to Tendu but getting rejected by her. He remarks that it's obviously always girls who resemble Tendu that he's defeated by. At school, Tasuku tells Amano he should start worrying about his real-life girl problems instead of how to finish a game, and believes it's time he made a move on Tendu. Amano says he's less than a tick in Tendu's presence, and he's training so that he can talk to girls properly. Tasuku warily points out that he's already having pretty normal conversations with Tendu, Hoshinomori, and Aguri, and played a game with Tendu the other day too. Amano wonders if Tendu isn't just being friendly to him because she's interested in Tasuku. Tasuku says he might have just been a tick when he turned down the club's initiation, but at this point, it's not true. He asks Amano if he would ask someone he hates to go for a walk with him. Amano suggests you might invite them out of courtesy, but Tasuku frustratingly questions if he's a kid for real. Amano happily thanks him for worrying about his relationship and says he's really happy they're friends. They suddenly notice Hoshinomori standing at the door, and she blushingly says she just remembered somewhere she has to be before running away. Tasuku hurriedly says that to today's meetup and rushes after her. As Tasuku and Hoshinomori are sitting at a cafe, she says she still doesn't get how Amano has such a cute girlfriend, so Tasuku mutters that he doesn't get it either and asks if she's sure she wasn't just hearing things. She says she's never seen a man brag so shamelessly about someone else's girlfriend, and Tasuku says they should talk about something else. He sees that her opinion on Amano still hasn't changed and asks what she thinks of Tendu. Amano and Aguri hide in the stall behind them, and Hoshinomori says she's garbage compared to Tendu, but she does wish they could become friends someday since they're both gamers. She asks Tasuku what he thinks about Tendu, so he says he thinks she's flawless. Hoshinomori sees that he does like her, but he tells her to cheer up since she's a perfectly fine woman in his eyes. He pats her on the head and she suddenly becomes embarrassed and runs off, so Tasuku goes after her. Shocked, Amano remarks that Tasuku really is cheating. Aguri and Amano discuss his relationship with Tendu next, and he mutters that he needs Tendu to recognize as a human being first, so she says he has to talk to her directly or he won't get anywhere. He asks Aguri how she confessed to Tasuku, so she says she just asked him to go out with her. Amano decides to ask to be friends with Tendu tomorrow and declares that he will stand by his word. Tendu rejects another boy at school and tells Misumi the worst thing you can do is giving them a vague answer, so he sees that that's why she's shutting them down so mercilessly. He hurriedly says he's not accusing her of anything and suggests that she could let her gut talk and be a bit more open. Tendu agrees and decides to stop going in and rejecting everything. At home, Amano gets the bad ending in his game and frustratingly declares that this is his 10th playthrough. He wonders if this is a sign that he's just fundamentally incompatible with Tendu. He receives messages from Tasuku and Aguri and wonders if he's supposed to be kind to everyone in the game instead of just the girl he wants. When he does that, he finally manages to get the happy ending and thanks Tasuku, Aguri and Mono, since even if Tendu rejects him, he'll still be happy. Aguri is stressing about what Tasuku's relationship is with Tendu and Hoshinomori and decides to figure out his feelings when Amano confesses to Tendu. Hoshinomori wonders why Amano is going to talk to Tendu after school when he already has a girlfriend named Aguri. She remembers hearing rumors that Aguri is going out with Tasuku and realizes Amano is being played by Aguri. Otherwise, there's no way he'd call Tendu when he already has a girlfriend. She remarks that Amano must be paying for all her arcade visits and tea and decides to help him wake up since they're of the same type. Tasuku remarks that he hates to use Amano like this, but Aguri will definitely be coming to see his confession, so he's going to hide in the crowd and get a good look at how Aguri reacts. If Amano and Aguri are just friends, she should be happy to see him get together with Tendu, but if Aguri shows even a hint of disappointment, then she's definitely cheating. Meanwhile, Aguri remarks that if Tasuku really likes Tendu, he shouldn't be too happy to see her become friends with Amano, which is sure to show up on his face. If Hoshinomori is his real interest, he'll look at her and will be worried about what she thinks of Amano. Meanwhile, Hoshinomori realizes Amano's confession to Tendu is his SA signal, since he doesn't have the heart to dump Aguri, and remarks that she will rally at Class F after school today to verify his message and find out the truth. Tasuku suddenly realizes Aguri might just look guiltily to him if she's really going out with Amano. Aguri stresses out about this as well, but she hurriedly tells herself to be confident, while Hoshinomori shockingly remarks that Aguri, Tasuku, and Tasuku might just guiltily look at for each other about Amano's SAS signal. But she tells herself that things won't get that bad. In any case, the three simultaneously remark that the after-school event is where it all ends. Tendu frustratingly remarks that she still doesn't get why Amano would want to see her after school and admits the most plausible explanation is that he wants to end their relationship and just wants to game in peace, so this is nothing but trouble for him. She tells herself that even if she's faced with an unfavorable situation, she shall act with dignity. True to herself, these guys are really preparing for war because of sheer jealousy. After school, the four quickly get up and Tendu remarks that she just needs to tell Amano what she feels. Amano worryingly sees that Tendu is actually here and sees that everyone else is here for him as well. Amano formally thanks Tendu for coming here today, so she says it's not a problem and asks what business he has with her today. Amano says this isn't easy for him to say, so Tendu tearfully tells him to go ahead because she's prepared. He realizes she's prepared to reject him and notices that Tasuku is refusing to look at him. He notices the others looking away as well and remarks that they're making sure they don't see him in his miserable defeat. He tells himself that even if Tendu turns him down, he still has his friends and all the happiness in the world. Tasuku that remarks that Aguri is staring at him really guiltily, and Aguri remarks that Tasuku is staring at her real, while Hoshinomori remarks that Aguri and Tasuku are both staring really guiltily, which means they're going really steadily and are freaking out about what Amano might say. Tendu tells herself to listen openly at first and to not go into everything being dismissive. This isn't like the way she's always turning down casual confessions, so even if she's being rejected, she's going to be completely open because she has a responsibility to respond with how she really feels. Just as Amano starts his sentence, the many events of recent days started rapidly flashing through his mind, and he says something, so Tendu agrees. Amano mutters that he messed up his lines a little as the others watch in shock. It's revealed that Amano asked Tendu to go out with him and she agrees. In class, Tasuku tells Amano he's getting a lot of attention, so Amano points out that it's partly his fault. Tasuku apologizes but asks who could have predicted that Amano would go beyond being friends and actually start a relationship. Tasuku mutters that he has no idea what to talk to Aguri about anymore since the guy she likes is with Tendu. Surprised, Amano wonders if Tasuku is cheating on Aguri and remarks that it's easier for them to hang out together after school if people believe Tendu is dating him. Amano thinks he should ask her to rescind his confession since it was a mistake to begin with anyway. He runs into Tendu outside, who asks if he's alright since he looks pale, but Amano hurriedly says he's in a hurry and rushes away. He meets Hoshinomori, who asks if he knows why Tendu is doing this for him. She mutters that they're enemies, but she doesn't care to hurt him more than she needs to, and says Aguri was a great person, but she's not his girlfriend. Later, Amano apologizes to Aguri in the restaurant, so she mutters that she can't be happy-go-lucky after she's confirmed that Tasuku is cheating. Amano asks if she doesn't think it's a stretch to say that just because he stared guiltily at her, so she asks why a guy would look so panicked when staring at his girlfriend and says everything's gone downhill since she met Amano. Amano wonders if Tasuku was never a real friend and might have just been using him. Aguri says what's important with his relationship with Tendu is how he feels, so he apologizes for asking for her advice. Tendu worryingly wonders why Amano asked her to come to the rooftop, and if that's got to do with their relationship. Amano arrives and apologizes for calling her out here. He asks why she isn't facing him and if she wants to stop dating him. He mutters that he understands since it must have been hell for her after he confessed. She annoyingly asks if he wants to take his confession back. Amano says he's glad she doesn't seem to hate him and reveals that he has to ask her something imposing. He asks if she would please go out on a date with him since they're in relationship now, shocking Tendu. He acknowledges that there are going to be a lot of hardships in this, and he doesn't stand a chance against Tasuku, so he's obviously going to lose, but as a gamer, he thinks it's wrong to disconnect before it's clear who the winner is. Tendu starts furiously blushing and agrees to go on a date with him, so Amano says he's looking forward to their time together, but hurriedly says he shouldn't go overboard since things have to be done in order in a relationship. As Tendu is blushingly leaving, she remarks that this wasn't the relationship she had in mind, but she can't ask him to change his tone now, and can't get any closer to him or else she'll lose her mind. Later on their date, Tendu and Amano arrive at the famous facility, and he nervously wonders what they should start with, so Tendu says they should look around and see what they'll have fun with. After spending a while at the facility, they get some drinks and Tendu cheerily says this is really fun and admits she's never even gotten this excited in P class at school. Amano wonders what they should do next and hurriedly hides the pool option with his hand before saying all that's left is the floor with the arcade games. Tendu says they should check out the pool and asks if he doesn't want to see her in a swimsuit, but Amano hurriedly says that's obviously not true. She blushingly asks if he wouldn't want to go on a pool date with her, and later, as Amano is waiting for Tendu in front of the pool, he remarks that he's betrayed humanity. Tendu arrives and asks what he thinks, so Amano inwardly says he just lost a life and says she looks so good that he doesn't want to bother making pedestrian comments about her. My guy really turned into a video game NPC. They decide to play a turn-based game in the pool and Tendu baits Amano before defeating him. They notice another couple playing in the water and get bummed out, so Amano mutters that they should go to the arcade games now, and she agrees. As they're walking, they unexpectedly see Hoshinomori surrounded by some guys, but she hurriedly rushes to hide behind Amano. When the guys leave, he tells Hoshinomori he's here with the person he's in a relationship with, so she says she can obviously see that and admits she shouldn't have interfered in a date between two people. They sit down and ask Hoshinomori why she's here today, so she says she had to come since her sister invited her, but they got separated. Tendu decides to help her look for her sister, so she says that would be really thankful, and Amano agrees since they're not in a hurry. However, Tendu menacingly says she can help by herself and Amano doesn't need to help look for her adorable sister. He hurriedly agrees and heads to the arcade room to wait for her. Tendu and Hoshinomori reach the arcade room and tell Amano her sister has already gone home. Hoshinomori hurriedly tells Amano he might as well do something nice for Tendu in return and gives him a chance to make her happy in a video game challenge, so Tendu cheerily agrees. They decide to compete in a racing game, and Tendu and Hoshinomori are initially in the lead, so Amano uses his bomb, making everyone explode. Later, Tendu laughingly tells him the way he lost was really hilarious. He asks if she wasn't angry at how pathetic he looked, so she says he didn't use the bomb to win, and whichever way it went, everyone there would have enjoyed the game more. Amano says if she went easy on him to let him win, he doesn't think he could have enjoyed it, and that's exactly what he likes about her. As the bus stops, they start cheerily talking about a new game they're both playing. The student council thanks everyone for coming today, and when they leave, she wearily sighs and declares that she's in heaven because their school is full of cute girls. She quickly puts on a disguise and leaves the school, remarking that the innocent student council president is but a disguise to keep society unaware because the true her is nothing but a completely screwed up, adult game freak girl. She happily picks out some games and notices Amano and Misumi in the store. She remarks that the boys seem to be from Otobuki, where Tendu Karen goes. She sees Misumi and remarks that even she goes wild for cute boys like him, but the other guy is the average protagonist you see in dating sims. Amano asks Misumi if he really wants to know what makes dating sims so good, so Misumi says there's no one in their club who knows about this genre more than him. In that case, Amano tells him to hold on and picks Rainbow Court, the same game the girl chose just now. Amano says this one didn't sell well and whichever one Misumi chooses is fine with him, but if he has to make a recommendation, he'd suggest this. hidden one. He reveals that this is actually one of his top 3 games, hearing which the girl blushingly wonders what this feeling is. At home, the girl, Konoha's older sister, asks where she got this game from, so she embarrassingly asks her to just give it back, and it's revealed that her older sister is Hoshinomori. Aguri, Amano, Hoshinomori, Tendo and Tasuku are sitting around a table as he remarks that it's easy to fix a misunderstanding. You just bring everyone together to talk it over, and it's not like he hadn't tried to figure that out a long time ago. But in reality, given the peculiar distance between each of them, it was never easy for them to get together. A few days ago after school, Hoshinomori shows Amano a board game her mom won, so Amano remembers seeing it online. Hoshinomori says they don't have enough people to play it. Sozu Tazuku says he'll join so that they can play together, and it'll be part of their gamers meet-up activities. Hoshinomori asks if they want to come to her place, but remarks that she's not sure how she feels about letting Amano inside her house. Tasuku suddenly gets an idea and says it won't be fun with just the 3 of them, so they should invite Tendo and Aguri. He remarks that all parties will be assembled, and they'll talk about what's going on so that they can finally put an end to this ridiculous love pentagon. However, that was never going to happen. As they're sitting around the table, Tasuku inwardly says everyone's become so careful around each other that they ended up seating themselves in a weird way. All you have to do in the game is spin the roulette and follow the events. It's easy to enjoy, there's plenty of time and talk, and it makes it easy to see into the main discussion. However, they keep ending up in awkward situations, so Tasuku remarks that this game wasn't the best idea to begin with. The part begins with Amano and Aguri dating. Hoshinomori can't find a job after graduating, while Tendo and Tasuku keep getting bad roles. In Tendo's turn, she learns that her love interest won't even look at her, but she's popular with clients. Tasuku remarks that she looks more worn out than when she came here, and he learns that he cheats on his partner with her sister. He gets scared when he hears a noise in a house, so Hoshinomori says her sister is home. Tasuku remarks that he thought for a second Hoshinomori's sister was actually going to stab him, and frustratingly gets up after her and Amano's turns. He warily says he's just really happy that they're all playing together. Amano says he's having a lot of fun too, although this is his first time playing this game. Hoshinomori leaves for a moment since her sister calls her outside, and Amano starts playing his mobile game, so Tendo says it looks fun. Aguri whispers to Tasuku that those two are really hitting it off, and he smilingly agrees. He confronts Aguri and says she sees really close to Amano, so she says he's like a really high-maintenance kid brother to her, so he's also a bit annoying now that he has a girlfriend, but she's still generally happy for him. Tasuku holds her hand, so she points out he's in front of Tendo. He asks why that matters, so Aguri smilingly says Tendo doesn't have anything to do with it. Amano tells Tendo that he really likes playing with Mono. Tendo asks what other online friends he has, and as Hoshinomori enters the room, he tells Tendo that he uses different nicknames with different platforms, but he really only talks to certain people. In this game, he goes by the name Tsuchi and hangs out with someone named Mono, and he uses the name Yama only when he's talking to a freeware game developer named Nobe. Hoshinomori looks up in shock as Tasuku warily covers his face and remarks that he can't watch. Tasuku really is the hustler in the entire group. Bro's just exhausted now. Tendo sees that Amano doesn't talk to a lot of people online, so he says Mono and Nobe are special to him. There, before him, was a woman who had finally, after all this time, made it to the start line at the absolute worst time imaginable. It was the tragic side of a truly hopeless girl who had just begun her first love when it was far too late. Hoshinomori remarks that the first time she made a game was in 4th grade, and before she knew it, she had become a serious freeware game developer, but if someone asks her if making games was always fun, she would say no. It started as a hobby, but with the chronic pain of creation and seeing brutal comments, she spent days bummed out. However, the reason she couldn't stop releasing games under the name Nobe was because there was just one person who always had the same tastes she did and kept rooting for her with respect and warmth. Presently, Hoshinomori warily gets up and asks if she wasn't playing the board game, so Konoha says they left a while ago. Remembering what happened, Hoshinomori asks Konoha if she should stick to her position of absolutely hating him, so Konoha tells her to go ahead and slowly asks who she's talking about. She says it's Yama and smacks Konoha in the head, saying no one talks bad about him. Konoha hurriedly apologizes and says Yama is a great person. At night, Hoshinomori wonders what she should say on the forum since Yama Eka Amano is going to be online too. She goes to Konoha's room and asks why she looks so out of breath. Says she was doing some light exercise. Hoshinomori informs her that she's going to the superstore, and before she leaves, Konoha asks if she can borrow her PC since hers doesn't have the specs to watch a video she likes. She hurriedly says to watch her favorite band's new music video. Hoshinomori buys a magazine and runs into Amano, says he forgot his transit pass and was on his way to go get it. He asks if her phone is on, but she sees that it's off. She hurriedly says girls like get asked out by a ton of boys makes during the summer to check out her phone, but Amano mutters that she didn't need to make the worst excuse. She asks what he knows about her, so he says she doesn't have the body of someone who's doing stuff all summer, and says he has the same kind of skin. She decides to take him home and asks if he doesn't spend his summer playing games. Amano says he does, but he gets the feeling that this summer break is going to be different from usual. He mutters that he acted outside of his comfort zone because he wanted to change himself and wanted to gather his courage to get a little bit closer to Tendu. He remembers how he gathered his courage to step forward and talk to her too, says he's glad it was her since after he saw her having so much fun playing Aegis Vita. He totally forgot how nervous he was and it felt like he'd found a true friend. When they arrive, Hoshinomori tells Amano to take a seat, but he says it's fine since he'll be leaving right away, so she suggests that he should have some tea first. She goes to her room to charge her phone, but Amano enters and says it started raining, so she should bring her laundry inside. Her computer accidentally turns on and she drops her phone, so Hoshinomori realizes Amano might see that Mono and Noba are her. She's about to reveal the truth, but Konoha warily gets up from her bed, so she says it's actually her sister, Konoha. Later, Tasuku is surprised to learn that Hoshinomori threw this curveball when he spent the last few days trying to set them both up together. Amano says Konoha's reaction was weird since she looked like she didn't really know what was going on. Tasuku asks what he did then, so he reveals that Hoshinomori wouldn't let him leave and he must have waited for about 10 minutes. He mutters that something doesn't feel right and admits he was really shocked to find out Nobe and Mono were the same person, but he just can't see them as Konoha. He asks if he's being cold, but Tasuku remarks that he obviously can't see Konoha as that person and there's nothing wrong about that. Thinking about how Hoshinomori reacted when she first learned the truth, Tasuku mutters that he can't be happy for Amano and Tendu, but he hurriedly realizes he said that out loud and rushes off for work. Amano sees that Tasuku really does like Tendu and wonders if there's another girl who has a crush on him that Tasuku decided to support. However, he remarks that there's no way that's true and decides to just accept reality and do the best he can. He heads to a shop to buy a dating sim and unexpectedly runs into Konoha, who wonders why she didn't wear a disguise today of all days. She asks Amano why he keeps messing with her in all the worst ways and tells him to not mind her, but Amano says he's a bit confused. She tells him to think of her and Noba as different people, and as they're walking, Konoha realizes she should show him more respect since he's her senior. However, Amano says that'd be too awkward at this point since they've already kind of skipped over that. She asks him to not tell anyone she was buying adult games and he agrees, so she asks what he thinks of her sister. He says they're not much to think about, so she asks what he thinks of Mono and Nobe. Amano says he's happy and cheerily says he really loves her work as Nobe, so she blushingly turns away and says there's a traffic jam of emotions in her right now. She asks Amano if he would allow her to hit him once, so he asks why since that makes no sense, but she suddenly punches him. They meet Hoshinomori and Konoha reveals that they had plans to meet up. Hoshinomori asks if they were ever that close, so Konoha hurriedly says they talk about her work and tells Amano he can talk to Hoshinomori about whatever he wants concerning Nobe and Mono since they don't keep any secrets from each other. Hoshinomori receives a call from someone and hurriedly tells them Tasuku blurted something out in a serious tone before hanging up. She reveals that he said he's decided that he's choosing her, so they question if that isn't a confession. At the restaurant, Aguri asks Amano why he wants her to join the gamers meetup when she doesn't play games at all, so he says it's fine as long as she loves someone who has a love for gaming. She says she doesn't want to be a pain to others, so he reveals that he's invited Tendu too and offers to give her a cake if she agrees to join the meetup. She instantly agrees and starts eating, so Amano remarks that her boyfriend was confessing to someone else behind her back and feels way too sorry for her. A few days ago, Amano firstly congratulates Hoshinomori since her crush confessed to her. Konoha says she'd personally turn Tasuku down without a second thought and remembers that he has a girlfriend named Aguri, so he's nothing but trouble since he's going after Hoshinomori as well. Amano realizes she's right and inwardly questions what he's supposed to say to Aguri. Hoshinomori says she can't think of a good excuse for turning him down, so Amano decides to call a professional rejecter. He asks Tendu if she can teach him how to turn someone down since he really needs to know right away. He says her opinion is the most effective and he doesn't have anyone else to turn to, but she declines to teach him and says he should figure it out himself. He offers to come help her and questions what boyfriend wouldn't help his beloved girlfriend. As soon as she hears that, Tendu apologizes for causing him trouble and says she's okay now before declaring that she loves him. After the call, Amano sits down on the bench and questions how his girlfriend is so adorable. He asks Konoha how she turns someone down. When they confess to her, she mutters that she says something like, "I have no interest in that kind of thing right now." Amano says he thinks there's only one solution in this situation. They should bring Tendu and Aguri to the meet up and talk things through together. Presently, as they're all sitting at a table, Amano says he brought them here today to discuss something of grave importance. He declares that tomorrow, he's going to go run full speed to buy Space Ocean 5. Hoshinomori says she plans to buy it too, but asks Amano if he reserved it, so he says he'd normally never forget to reserve it, but a lot of stuff happened this summer. He says it was the first game that touched his heart, so there's something seriously wrong with him forgetting to reserve it. At home, Konoha asks Hoshinomori if they cleared things up in the meeting since she seems free to play games, but Hoshinomori says Amano chickened out and nothing got solved. Konoha points out half of that mess is her fault though, since she even dragged her into it, so Hoshinomori apologizes and asks what she wants. She says she wanted to find out how her sister really feels, so Hoshinomori reveals Amano already has a girlfriend and admits she should make up her mind. As she leaves to go sleep, Hoshinomori wonders how she feels about Amano. After school, Amano hurriedly rushes out of the class to go buy his game, and Tendu runs out as well, remarking that as long as Amano and Tendu are dating, he's the only one who can look out for Hoshinomori and needs to at least make that clear, because of course he can't just mind his own business. He asks Hoshinomori if they can talk, so she says she's still not prepared to give him an answer and doesn't want to cause heartbreak. Tasuku sees that she's not ready to hurt Tendu by taking Amano away from her and says he doesn't want to rush her, but she says it's understandable that he wants to know how she feels. Tendu appears and says there's something she'd like to run by them. Aguri realizes this was a trap since she thought she was meeting some friends from middle school, but they were actually some bullies. They start insulting her and her friends from the meetup, so Aguri gets up, saying she has way more fun talking to those nerds, so she's leaving now. Meanwhile, Tendu tells Hoshinomori and Tasuku that ever since she started dating Amano, her skin's been really supple, things she eat taste good all the time, and the whole world looks really beautiful. She says she personally wants to be with him all the time, but today, it seems like games are more important to him, and he apparently goes to meet with Aguri all the time too. Tasuku doesn't think that's a problem and reveals that Aguri even said she thinks of him as her kid brother. He sees that she really must like him and says that's enough bragging about her relationship. However, they suddenly run into Aguri, who tearfully says this just proves he's cheating on her and runs away. They rush off after her, and Tendu says she just thinks of him as a bug that buzzes around Amano, and Hoshinomori says she's way past the point where she was honored that Tasuku liked her, hearing which Tasuku mutters that he's kinda hurt right now. Later, Aguri apologizes for getting carried away a bit and decides to tell Amano to not come since she called him, but they don't think that's an issue since he's probably just looking for his game right now. However, Amano suddenly appears in front of them, and after learning about the situation, he mutters that he shouldn't have bothered worrying. He says he put Space Ocean 3 on hold since this is way more important than a game, hearing which they all smile. As Tasuku and Tendu are depressingly walking with each other, they admit Amano and Aguri are influencing each other. Tendu asks if he thinks he's bringing out Aguri's true self, and they both admit they're an ideal couple. Tendu says she's not seriously suspicious about Amano and Aguri being in a relationship, so he says he knows, remarking that neither of them would be cool with a betrayal. He says they can still turn things around because they have their own way of doing things, and asks how one makes it absolutely clear what their relationship is with someone who's become full of doubt. You do it by creating an indisputable fact. Later, Tendu calls Amano and asks if he wants to go on a double date with Tasuku and Aguri, so he says he'd be embarrassed out of his mind. Tendu admits she feels shy about it as well, and it does seem a lot more next level than a normal date. She asks if he's absolutely opposed to the idea, but Amano blushingly agrees to go, so she agrees to see him then, and says goodnight. They head to an amusement park, and Amano and Tendu are really excited about it, but tatters that Ivu mutters as a gamer that nerd couple is straight up creepy to him. Earlier that morning, Amano and Aguri meet at the restaurant, and she wearily says she can't figure out what her boyfriend is thinking, but Amano says he's cool about it because Tendu and Tasuku finally that they're all going out on a date each other, and there's nothing left to worry about. Presently, Amano tells Aguri he's never seen Tendu this excited, and they wonder if they're covering up the fact that they're cheating. As they're standing in the line, Tendu and Tasuku realize it's time to grab their partner's hands, but they suddenly notice Konoha and Hoshinomori nearby. Last night, Konoha asks Hoshinomori if she doesn't have any plans on the weekend. Hoshinomori says she does, so Konoha says she got 2 free tickets and tells her to be more honest about her feelings, so Hoshinomori agrees. Presently, Konoha asks why they left Hoshinomori out, so Tendu says they didn't mean to do that, they're just on a double date, and Amano mutters that since they're here, they could all hang out together and get to know each other. After having fun on other rides, they decide to go to the haunted house, but Konoha separates Amano from the others and gets out with him and Hoshinomori. They ask Hoshinomori if she's alright, so she wearily says she's feeling a bit dizzy and falls unconscious. She later wakes up, so Konoha goes to get some drinks and leaves them both alone. As he's sitting on the bench with Hoshinomori, Amano gets a call from Tendu and starts to leave to talk, but Hoshinomori mutters that she gets lonely at places like this, so he agrees to stay, and Tendu informs him that she'll be waiting at the Kizuna dungeon exit. Hoshinomori asks how important Mono and Nobi are and if they're more important than Tendu, so he says everyone's important to him, including her, and he'd have never imagined that he'd get to hang out with them. When Konoha returns, he says they should go meet the others, but Hoshinomori says she's going home and tells him to go enjoy the last bit with Tendu. However, Amano says they should go enjoy the parade together and drags her with him. They meet the others and inform them that Hoshinomori collapsed before they leave to go watch the parade. As they're watching, Tasuku holds Aguri's hand and says they should go to the front before Amano offers Tendu his hand too, and she blushingly takes it. Aguri happily hugs Tasuku while Amano says they should go even further, but he slips and gets his foot stuck. Misumi tells a fictional tale about his story and remarks that he recently joined the gaming club at his new school. Having become a participant in the Total Video Game Tournament, he defeated his opponents with ease. In the final round, he faced off against the girl he'd once saved and gets ready to save her. As Misumi rushes forward, he wonders if Tendu and Amano are on the bus right now and hopes they're enjoying their trip. Meanwhile, as the group is on their way to a trip, Tasuku tells Tendu she seems really well prepared for just a trip, so she embarrassingly says this is proper attire for a woman. When they arrive, Amano is telling them about a bad game that can't return when Aguri says games seem overpriced to begin with. Tasuku argues that some clothes are more expensive, but she says clothes are daily necessities. Amano, Hoshinomori and Tendu get serious, and she says it's useful to talk about whether games are useful or not, and questions if she would dismiss all entertaining activities as useless. Amano says gaming is a kind of recreation, so it's not a question of whether or not it's useful. He and Tendu start slowly getting closer to each other, but the others remind them that flirting isn't allowed. Aguri says gamers don't really look happy all the time while they're gaming and points out that it's a pain to level up, but Hoshinomori hurriedly says that's fun too. When they arrive at their rooms, everyone's shocked by how nice they are. Later, Aguri asks why people spend money on downloadable content like clothes for your characters in games, so he hurriedly says they are useful. He asks Aguri what she would do if Tasuku bought her a ring, and if her love for him would grow as a result. She says it would since she likes gifts, so Amano says that proves the point of DLCs. She argues that that's totally different, so Amano explains how it works by using her and Tasuku as examples again, but even after all that, Aguri still says games are really bad. As they're playing, she says the industry seems to be in its final days considering how unhappy so many users are with their products, but they argue that not all games are like that. As the girls are in the hot bath, Tendu says she loves higher difficulty mode Sin games because she loves the challenge and believes all the hardcore gamers in the club would understand, so Aguri sees that the game club members are masochistas. She's not really wrong about that. Hoshinomori says she personally likes having epilogues to her RPGs and starts talking about how she really likes epilogues where people turn into fishes. She says DLCs need to completely removed and crazy compared to the original. Later, as they set up their feudins, they talk about the DLCs they want, and Amano says he wants one where the hero and heroine live happily together. After everything they talked about, Aguri still doesn't like how games work, so Amano smilingly says games are a flexible medium that give you the freedom to make as much of an emotional investment as you want, and asks if she appreciates how much games cost now. Aguri says she won't say games are too expensive anymore, which makes everyone happy. Now that that's done, Amano suggests that they should play the famously bad game he was talking about before, but the others instantly lie down to sleep, so he tearfully mutters that he wants a refund.